I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. Whatever. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you can hear me all right. Everything's coming in okay. Using the cam mic that I did last time, so it sounds a little bit different than my usual mic. Still haven't gotten a replacement for the interface, but this worked well enough for last time, so I figured it'd be fine again. I do have a gaming headset that I might try and use at some point, because that mic, works properly as well. But then I've got to wear this big clunky headset and everything. So, but you guys say you can hear me loud and clear, so appreciate that. Welcome to everybody. Hope you had a great week. I am going to try to be as high energy and engaging as I can. I was telling Sound Engraver before the stream, I always take a nap before the streams, and I woke up with this raging headache. I think it came from a lack of sleep. I got a bit of a sleep debt this week. Had a big fun week, with my daughter and everything. We took her to an amusement park that we like to go to, especially around Christmas time. And she caught a little cold though, so she didn't sleep well last night. And I was up for a good part of the night, and then I had to get her up early, of course, because I take her and drop her off with her mother on Saturday mornings or afternoons rather. So yeah, it might be sleep debt or something. I took some ibuprofen. We'll see if it kicks in. It'd be nice, because this headache is not fun. Not fun at all. But hopefully you guys are doing well and headache free. Welcome to Ghost Planet Max Inc. Being really quiet in the chat tonight. I guess you just don't have a lot to say, Ghost Planet Max Inc. But obviously I'm being facetious. Ghost Planet Max Inc.'s got a lot on his mind, bro. Eldritch fan, welcome. Nathaniel's Lowsball, saw you in there too. And no, I still haven't watched Klaus, but I did think about it. I'm remembering it. I started watching this week, and it's meh. I was hoping it'd be a lot better than the last season. I dearly love the Tim Allen, the classic, the first one, the Tim Allen, the Santa Claus. Love that movie. And it's not the Santa Claus of my childhood necessarily, because I was like 13, 14. Alright, I think I'm coming in now. You guys will have to let me know if that happens again. I'm going to have to get Father Martins to come bless and exercise my tech. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Good. I don't even know what the problem was there.
You're coming in real hot.
Oh, I did boost the mic. Let me I can stop the hot, the really hot coming in. Who knows what in the world the problem is going on here. Let me see. Come on. How's that? How's that for the mic? I'll turn the cam back on in a second. I know the mic was like really hot there. Is it better now? Or do I sound super far away? Studio 96 sounds static. Lo-fi quality. Not even using equalizer. No, not at all.
I don't think the mic is working at all.
You mean you can't hear me?
I can hear you just fine, but check with the chat, but it's very buzzy.
They say a lot better now.
Oh, okay.
You go check again, let me know. Man, I'm starting to feel like Fan Man. the level of tech issues I've been having the last couple of streams. It's like Fan Man levels. Come on, camera, focus. Focus in a second. And come on. Thank you. Appreciate that. Big Al Presents this. Called it. Come on, focus. Autofocus. I took the camera down, and now it's being a pain in the butt. I know, I'm blurry. It does this thing where it autofocuses. It autofocused wrong. Hang on. Pain in the butt. Pain in the butt. Man, oh my goodness. This is annoying me. But at least we're working now. I think we're good.
Are you trying to talk?
Yeah, I'm talking. No, I wasn't talking a second ago. I was putting the I was getting the thing there. But I hope I'm not clipping or anything. Turning the volume down a touch. I don't know. We shall see. You guys can let me know if it's I don't know, it's just grainy. This webcam interface is being a problem now. I don't know. Like I said, I need to get Father Martins from the Exorcist Files come over and bless my equipment. Got demons in the equipment trying to stop me from telling the truth. I had some super chats here while I was working on really ridiculous tech issues, but I'm gonna get to those. I think I finished welcoming people. I don't know. We're into it now. Might as well keep rolling. But I see everybody there. Good to see you there. Where was I in my little rant when I cut off last time? I think I was talking about the Santa Claus movies and whatnot. But I thought the name was I believe fairies. Woke fairies. Studio Super, thank you very much. Okay, so you guys did hear me talk about Santa Claus at some point. You said I recently saw Santa Claus, the Alexander Salkind movie. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That was the Santa Claus of my childhood. It gets a little weird at the end with Dudley Moore and that kind of stuff, but the origin of Santa, best Santa Claus movie ever. Wonderful. Love it. So I recently saw Santa Claus, the Alexander Salkind movie. Boy, did I love it. I love the part where they read him the night before Christmas, and he's like, that's not what they think I look like, is it? I know, yeah. When he's like, and he, his belly shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly, and the elves are all laughing about it, and he's like, that's not what I, Forget the actor. Hastings, was it? No. The actor, but yeah, he was when I was a kid imagining Santa Claus, that was the Santa Claus from that film. But I love the Tim Allen movies. The first one in particular. The second one are fun just because you love the character and you love that world. And then when Disney Plus said they were going to do a series, Tim Allen was saying some good things about it. Tim Allen was like, we're going to make sure that we we honor the fact that Christmas is about Jesus' birthday, you know. And I was like, all right, well, Tim Allen, he's a conservative guy anyway. Not that he preaches politics in his work, you know, which I wouldn't want either. But he, you know, he doesn't, you know, put up with any crap. And the first season was, it just wasn't the quality or the real captured magic that I was expecting. It wasn't bad. It was just like, again, it was kind of like the sequels. It was fun spending time with the characters again, but it was a little weird. I didn't like the direction it took, just story-wise, you know, story direction, you know, just taste-wise. So I thought, well, maybe the season 2 will be better. And so far, I think it's better than season 1, but it's still a little like, it could be. I'm just hoping that, like, go back and recapture that magic. Maybe it can't recapture that magic of the first one again, because part of the magic of the first Santa Claus film is Tim Allen's character becoming Santa Claus, you know, and that's like, it's an origin film. So I don't know. But you know, I liked a lot of the first season, and I'm liking a lot of the second season, about halfway through it. So we'll see how I like it in the end. Anyway, that's why I haven't watched Klaus yet, but it's on my radar. I did remember it this week. Also, I just finished up. Like, I'm finally on break now, which feels so freaking good. I had so many irons in the fire this semester. I was telling the sound engraver at different times, it was like I couldn't even really be creative. I just had so much going on that, and like it was all I could do, just kind of keep my head above water with work, with grading, tutoring, and then the teaching, and then, you know, taking care of Alyssa and all this kind of stuff. And all I've got to do now is put some grades in for the semester, maybe tutor a few more papers because they're just kind of trickling in slowly. But I'm finally properly on break, which is great. Going to see Big Al tomorrow, not tomorrow, Monday. So I'll do another video road trip with me going to see Big Al. I'll just record little highlights of it here and there. Record bits when we're there with Big Al chatting and hanging out. So you guys will take you along with that little visit, which will be fun. That's an all-day trip though, because oh gosh, Al, what was it? Sound engraver. How long? Because you've got sound engravers gone with me before to see Al. I think it's at least a 3-hour drive, just to get there, and might be even 3.5 or something like that, and then back. So it's a drive. I also have to really make sure that I love you, Big Al. Love you. You're my brother. But Big Al is a very gregarious, outgoing, extroverted person. And the poor guy does, you know, he's home alone. He doesn't have, you know, people to. So when Al's got you, you know, you're going to engage, you're going to socialize, and you're going to listen. He's going to talk. And, you know, me being so 1,000 times to the nth power introverted, I drive home from a visit from Al feeling great because I visited my good friend. It's wonderful. We had a great time, but I'm also like, oh, just the social energy. So it'll be good. It'll be fun. Studio Super also super chat said only for Mrs. Claus to go well, and then the next scene cuts to him eating veggies. So funny to me. Yeah, that's right. And see, I like that too. You know, this might be a little controversial. Some of you guys might like it. I don't outright hate it. I'm not like ideologically opposed to it or something, you know, but I really do not like the Kurt Russell Santa Claus movies that Netflix did, I guess. I forget what they were called. Christmas Chronicles is what they were called. I like Kurt Russell. Love him as an actor. I just don't like that presentation of Santa at all. He's grumpy. He's not overweight, and Santa should be overweight. He's just like, and I get the story. I know he's like there, you know, it's a father figure in some ways for these people that lost their father. Whatever, I don't care. I don't do ho ho ho, fake news. Rah, 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 rah. And it's just like, screw you then. You're not Santa, you know. And so I don't like this Fit Santa, like the red one, that horrible movie that got all the horrible reviews that came out recently. I didn't see it, but my mother was watching it earlier today, and I saw like the scene of what's his name, J.K. whatever, as Santa, and he's like lifting weights. I'm like, no. Santa has got a bowl that jiggles, and he laughs like a bowl full of jelly. You don't have that, you're not Santa Claus. I don't care. Get out of here. So, yeah, I hated those Christmas Chronicle movies. Also, the elves are so dumb. I'm not even really sold on the elves from the Tim Allen movies. It's fine. That's the direction they went, and they stuck with it. They committed to it, and it's fine. It's kids. Actors, but you know, elves are hundreds of years old, but they just look like kids. Okay, whatever. Not my favorite direction to go in with elves, but whatever. But the little weird bad CGI troll-looking things in the Christmas Chronicles. Get out of here. That's awful. Just make the elves look like little elves. I know that's not the elves of Irish folklore or whatever. We're not talking about Irish folklore. We're talking about Santa Claus in the North Pole. I want to see little pointy-eared, happy elves with beards. Not dwarves, but little elves, you know? Anyway. We're just going off on Santa Claus stuff here tonight. Right out of the gate. So, where was I even going? Big Al says, I'm worth it. You are worth it, buddy. You're worth it. You're worth it. That's what I keep telling myself. Neil said, I get it. Just started writing last month. Now I'm finally having a constant schedule. Yeah, my writing has been very few and far between. It is, yeah. I agree, Leah Plus says, I think it is. Hollywood is declausing, or deconstructing Santa Claus. I wonder why. You know, I don't think it's from, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think it's actually from an agenda point of view in terms of like wokeism or anything, because if you acknowledge Santa Claus at all, you're acknowledging Christmas, you know? You know, maybe not the religious aspect of Christmas, which, you know, should be, but I don't know, just why all this weird, like, it's almost like they're just like, well, that stuff's been done before. We got to do something new and fresh. And Red One, like I've never seen it, but I saw the trailer was enough to tell me I'm not interested in that. That just looked like garbage. Yeah. Yeah, that was a problem, Elf Runner, when you got the children as elves, you can't keep bringing back the same actors but so many times. They brought back Bernard in the first season of the Santa Clauses, and he had like gone away. That's why he had aged or whatever, you know. But yeah, I didn't like that. They did. I just watched the episode last night from season 2 of the Santa Clauses, in which they've got the little girl who plays Judy in the very first Santa Claus, the girl who gives him his pajamas when he first gets to the North Pole, and she gives him the cocoa, and she's like, this is my special recipe, you know, and she tells him all this stuff. She's actually in a scene. She has a little cameo where she's like running a hot cocoa stand or whatever in this like, you know, commercial Santa place or whatever. And I'm looking at her, and she's older and she's pregnant, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm freaking old. How did she, it hasn't been that long, has it? And then I'm like, oh crap, it hasn't been that long. That makes you feel really old. Oh, I agree, Neil. We're all bored of deconstructions here. Deconstruction is like, it's like trans fat in a person's diet. A little bit of trans fat, like your human body needs a little bit of trans fat. It actually does. It needs a little bit of trans fat, but it needs such a minuscule amount of trans fat that you don't ever have to worry about, are you getting enough trans fat? Because, you know, trans fat's in so many things that, yeah, you're fine. You don't ever have to worry if you're getting enough trans fat. You're always getting too much. And that's what deconstruction's like in storytelling, especially in recent storytelling of the last decade or so. And writers just think they're so cool and they're deconstructing this, and you know, academics think they're doing, you know, the work of the angels or something. It's enough with the deconstruction. How about keeping with the constructs that we have, you know? Studio Super, thank you, said doing parodies and versions off the real deal, doing so much to the point the real deal becomes lost under the pile. I know. I never saw Elf. I know the Will Ferrell movie, just never saw it. I'm not against it. I think it's probably, in fact, I know the story is kind of sweet because Sound Engraver and I just went to see one of her vocal students was in a play, like a middle school play that was doing Elf. And so that was the basic story, but it was a musical version of it. So I know they changed some things. I don't know if this was it in the movie, but they don't even use reindeer anymore. Santa's sleigh just runs on Christmas spirit. Maybe that's in the movie too. But I ain't like that. Like, no. The story was cute, but I don't like that. Reindeer are there. Keep the reindeer there. I love the Rankin and Bass 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Alyssa loves watching that. I do like, you know, we like the Rudolph and the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the Rankin and Bass, but Santa is a little bit of a grumpa bump in that until the end anyway. So, I really like the I think it's called Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the origin story. Rankin and Bass did later on they did a film version of the Frank L. Baum, the guy who did Wizard of Oz. He wrote a Santa Claus origin story before "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" poem was written. You know, once the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" poem was written in the early 1900s, I think, or maybe it was late 1800s. I think it was maybe it was late 1800s. But once that poem was written, yeah, I think it was late 1800s. Once that poem was written, that just really embedded in the culture of how we see Santa. We got the 8 reindeer with their names. Our culture. It's a great poem. I don't even think, do we even know who wrote it? I think it's even unknown, the actual author of it, or maybe it is. I don't know. I get it mixed up with the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer guy who wrote it for the department store that time. But anyway, Frank L. Baum wrote a origin story, which, if you read it today, it's kind of like, that's not Santa, because you know that 'twas the night before Christmas. But it's fun. I mean, it's like a fairy land kind of origin of him and whatnot. You know, it's good. It's well done, but you want the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" origin story, because I would dream of writing something one day that can affect culture so strongly, even if it was just one of my stories that made it. How cool would it be to have written "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," that poem, and to just know that your work is like one of the stalwarts of popular culture at that point, forever, you know? Charles Dickens with "A Christmas Carol," same thing, you know, just that work is just, bam, you know? Bram Stoker with Dracula, you know, those works, Jekyll and Hyde, you know, some of the works that just have become part of the culture, become part of the very foundations and structures of the culture. That's awesome. I think that's the most any writer could really ever aspire to. And so few will ever achieve something like that, because culture can't have but so many different foundations and structures. So yeah. Of course, Big Al's got Wikipedia at the ready. He Googled the name of the author there. Maybe some others did too. Zemzilla, thank you so much for the super chat, says, caught up with your Monsterverse comic video. Okay, cool. I don't understand the hipster comment. Since I see those fans' sentiment not much different from your own, don't screw with the costume videos, but for Godzilla. You mean I'm trying to think what you mean. You mean the part about a lot of Godzilla fans are like, no, Godzilla should be a monster? That's cool. That's cool. I just don't like that. I have no problem. I'm not against people who like the Godzilla as a monster. Some of the people in the chat were even saying, well, I like it as sort of an amoral creature destruction. That's cool. I've got nothing against those movies. If I sounded a little snippy, it's probably because I'm so tired of people telling me, but you really need to watch this, you know? Because I'm only interested in Godzilla through the Legendary Monsterverse, where he's a force of nature that's kind of there to restore order. Like, I like that. That appeals to me. I got nothing against the other Godzilla movies, and I know that that's the real Godzilla for most people. That's great. It's just not my thing. But yeah, if I sound, I'm not like ideologically opposed to it or anything. Hopefully that, if it did come across like that, I'll correct that there. Speaking of Godzilla and Kong, oh, hang on, got another super chat here from Studio Superset. I like Hook, where it doesn't feel like a reconstruction, but rather a character recapturing and rediscovering his roots. Yeah, Hook wasn't a deconstruction at all. It was a kind of an alternate universe take on it. I mean, yeah, what if Pan had gone away with Wendy and grew up and came back? Yeah, I didn't see that as a deconstruction. Sort of an alternate timeline or something of the story. But no, speaking of Godzilla and Kong, to get back to it, I do have coming up, I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to be reviewing it soon. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. This came out just like last year, I think, and I wasn't interested when I first heard about it. I thought, I don't care about anything DC does. I don't care. I'm not interested. But this is not DC continuity. This is not current DC timeline. Look at that. You got Batman in his yellow sigil and gray and blue suit. That's brilliant. This is just kind of like a standalone tale with sort of the most iconic, it looks like anyway, it's some of the most iconic versions of the characters. And it's like the fabrics of the universes somehow converge. I haven't read it yet, but I will read it and give a review of it. So yeah, that's coming up. Let's see. Another super chat from Studio Super said, I feel the same way with my characters. I want them to be pillars in culture. That's why I'm big on having editors, aka people who know better than me. Everybody needs an editor, right? I'm like 1 page away from finishing my short story compilation that I think I'm going to try to shop around to some small house publishers. I just don't like the self-publishing thing for my own sake because I can't do it. I don't do the business well. I don't want to be responsible for all of the marketing, all of the distribution, all of the organization and the this and that, and even if it's just print on demand, it's too much for me. And I know I'd take a hit. I know you're giving away your profits and whatnot. But if you find the right small house publisher, I've had some really great experiences with them when I worked through Firebringer Press and have some of my short stories published through them in compilations. So I think it's possible if you find the right one, but I'm like a page away from finishing that. So it's, and I was telling Sound Engraver, okay, I'm going to need to hire myself. I work as a development. I'm a professional editor. I've been trained in writing. I've been trained in editing. I teach it. People hire me to write and edit, but I would need, just because you can't edit your own work, even the most, if you somehow found the most skilled writer or the most skilled editor ever, there's blinders on when you look at your own work, and you need another pair of eyes, not just a second reader. Those are important too, to have your beta readers and so forth, but you need a second set of trained eyes, editorial eyes. So yeah, I myself will need an editor. I'll have to start looking around for editor to give it one more pass through. A lot of them have already been edited, but a couple of the stories are somewhat new. So I need to make sure they've really gone through the process before I start shopping it around with some small house publishers. So I hear you. Studio 96 says, you got a long hill to climb to have an impact on culture through writing. It's true. And it's kind of like lightning in the bottle. I don't think the writer of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, or I guess A Visit from Santa Claus is the technical name for it, or A Visit from Saint Nick or whatever. I don't think they were setting out trying to change culture. I don't even think Charles Dickens was setting out to try to change the culture around Christmas as much as he did. He was in debt. He needed that book to be a hit, and he invested a lot in it and stuff. And but I don't think anybody knows when one of your pieces of work just clicks into culture like that. Certainly Bram Stoker didn't think Dracula would become such a hit, and it didn't really become the hit it was until later, even after his death. But yeah, it's just you write something that culture just happens to click on and happens to need for a certain time, and that's it. Sound Engraver, thank you for the super chat. Professor Geek is my go-to for bass feedback. Yes. Yeah, I can't, I'm not a music composer in Sound Engraver. I'm not anything like that, but I do play bass guitar, and I've got an ear for bass. Like if I listen to a song, it's got to have a cool bass line. I can pick out the bass in anything. And so she's been composing and getting her album pretty much finished lately. And she'll have me come over to listen to the bass and say, okay, do you hear that? Or do you think that's cool or whatever? So I'm honored that I can, that she would listen to my opinion on that, because I am not a music composer. That's her. That's all her. But I got bass down. Got bass. Leia Plus Size says, I'm sorry, but JL and Kong does not work with me. You mean, did you read it and you didn't like it, or you just don't like the concept? Which I get that too. It's clearly a cash grab concept, right? Clearly a cash grab. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. Clearly a cash grab. I'm interested enough to read it because we've got the iconic versions of the characters here, at least in the from what I've seen so far. And then you also have the legendary versions of Godzilla and Kong. It's just like the two universes like meshed, or so like there's a warp hole or something. I don't know. And I don't know. It might be garbage. It might just be some really cool art of all of them together. I don't know. So we'll see. But I certainly understand that concept if it's just not for you. I get that. Ghost Planet talking about Nickmas. You mean the Nickelodeon? That was good. I've actually got a there's this guy on Instagram. I forget the name of his channel. he sells these DVDs where he's sort of pirating them, but he's doing it like out in the open. It's not like a pirate thing, so I don't know how he gets away with it. But he had a Halloween compilation of all of the old Nick or Treat stuff that Nickelodeon had done back in the day, and Halloween episodes of there's a lot of the shows and everything, put it in a one big, compilation. I got his Adventures of Pete and Pete compilation, because he's putting stuff on DVD that, for whatever reason, Nickelodeon or Paramount or whatever, they just refuse to release and refuse to put out. He's got a Salute Your Shorts compilation, but he just had a Christmas compilation too, which had the Nickmas stuff and a lot of the Christmas episodes of some of the things. So I'll probably be watching some of that this week too, now that I got a bit more time. That was good. That makes sense. Big Boy says some of the DC character depictions are better than the others in the JL versus Godzilla. I'd believe that. Yeah, I'll read it and see shortly. I do have some reviews to get through tonight. I mean, no rush, but I'll get them in a moment. Sound Engraver remembers Salute Your Shorts. Do you guys remember Danny Cooksey, the guy who played, I forget the character's name, but the redheaded guy, sort of the punk, the hothead or whatever, on the show. Danny Cooksey, the actor, you've probably seen him. He was in like Growing Pains and a lot of different things and whatnot. But he actually was in a band called Bad for Good. Bad, the number 4, and then Good. And it was him, he was maybe like 14 or something at the time, 13, 14, maybe even 11 or 12 or 11, I don't know. But he got together with other kids his age. And Steve Vai was the one who discovered them. And they got together with an amazing guitarist. The guitarist is doing some really cool work with an electronic artist now, really blowing it away. But it was at the height of, early 90s, or the height of like good old hair rock and roll, hair metal. And they had a band. It was pretty decent. They had a couple of hits. Danny Cooksey was the singer. Amazing shredding guitar player, for a little kid. And the bassist and drummer about the same age and everything. And Steve Vai produced their album. He didn't play on it or anything. He just kind of discovered them and produced it. And it was pretty sweet. You can look them up. Bad, the number 4, Good. Sounds like a boy band, Mr. D-Man says. Yeah, the name probably could have been better, but it was pretty good for that time and that era, and kids that age writing their own stuff and everything. It was pretty sweet. I think Danny Cooksey does like country or something now. I tried to look up, see if he was still rocking, and he's done like folk and kind of like no, pass on that. We do some more rocking stuff. Studio Super says, for me, when making my character, I thought, what's missing in comics that it needs right now? Heroes. That's why in my world, it's a metaphorical world where the idea of the superhero is forgotten. Yeah, I've read some of your stuff that you sent me, and that's a great idea. It's a great concept. And it's some stuff like that's been done, but we need more of it, So yeah, I agree. Budnick, that's his name. Budnick, that was the character's name. Yeah. My favorite Budnick moment from Salute Your Shorts, I forget the reason for it in the story, but somehow he'd become the counselor. He had become the counselor for that day or whatever, and he's having them fill up the swimming pool, like bucket by bucket. So all the campers are like pouring bucket after bucket in the swimming pool, and they're like, why don't you just go swim in the lake? He's like, because fish fart in it. Oh, that's brilliant. Studio Super again, thank you for the super chat. Said, in my opinion, I feel a good way to find a good footing in culture is to see what's missing in it and then fill it. See a need, fill a need. Yeah, it's true. And you have to, and as you would agree, and as you're doing with your own work, you have to find a way that you're not selling yourself out, though, right? Because some people might do that, right? Some people might, this thing isn't being done. I'm going to go do this real quick. And it's not really in their wheelhouse. It's not something that they're passionate about. It's not something that they should be doing, But yeah, if you can find that middle ground between something you see as missing in culture, or that it needs, or where culture's leaning towards this, so you're going to write something and slant it that way, marketing-wise or whatever, yeah. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you're being true to your work and art and stuff. Definitely. Oh, Hey Dude, yeah, I remember that show too. Yeah, that was good stuff. Neil says, my idea of work was tackling an epic fantasy series that comes from an East Southeast Asian perspective with unique fantasy races and a quest that came from seeing Rings of Power sucking. That's interesting. Yeah, the fantasy genre really does draw all of its most basic core influence from a kind of an Anglo perspective of Europe. Just because that's where a lot of the writers wrote it from. You got Tolkien, obviously, even The Witcher, or Elric before him and so forth, comes from that European centric, and it's, as a result, that's really crept into just sort of the basis of a lot of high fantasy. You've got some kingdom that's sort of somewhat analogous to the Roman Empire, whether it's Aquilonia or I forget what it is in The Witcher. You got the southern kingdoms trying to rise up. You've got the barbarians, surrounding and so forth. Robert E. Howard did a really interesting take on that, because even though his Conan and the whole universe of Samaria and Aquilonia and all that kind of stuff is still sort of predicated on a loosely, European structure there, it's such an American spirit behind it and feel behind it, especially Conan himself and Howard being a Texan, it's just like, it's so very American, even though it's loosely based on those sort of European geographies or whatnot. But yeah, it'd be interesting to have some fantasies that come from some different parts of the world. So as you said, Asian or Southeast Asian or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'd be there for that. I'd be there to check that out. It might be the reason I said all of that is because you might have to get creative with your marketing, because if you had like a fantasy story that's based on a mythology or culture or folklore from a different part of the world, that's great. But you'd have to find a way to communicate that to people, because if you said, hey, here's my fantasy story, somewhere they're automatically going to be thinking, even if they realize it or not, they're going to be looking for that sort of European geography structure. So yeah, putting that in the message, hey, this is my Southeast Asian based fantasy or whatever. Be a cool idea. Mr. D-Man says, my imagination is kind of weird. I like the fantasy stuff, but I also did that dark and gloomy stuff. Go figure. I'm returning to fantasy once I can finish up this, and it's like I'm like a page away from finishing this final short story. But they're these final tales, and they're I'd read a couple of them on the channel before. The Girlfriend in the Basement was one. Unboxing Anna was another one that I had read. So they're all tales about, some of them are fantasy, related, or speculative fiction, sort of sci-fi related, but they're not strictly that. But they're all tales about how people use each other. What was his name? Bishop Fulton Sheen. And this sentiment has been said a lot along, even before he came along, but he's one that said a quote, is basically we ought to love people and use things, not use people and love things, which is what our culture does today. So it's kind of like a lot of the stories explore the consequences of when people use people, and some of them get pretty graphic. Some of them are graphically sexual in some ways. Not gratuitously so, though. Not gratuitously so. My poor sound engraver has to read some of these. Some of them are like, yeah, you probably shouldn't read that one. It's just gonna get in your head. But yeah, they're exploring that idea. So once I get that done and get that out, I'll be going back to my own fantasy stuff, Fall of Mithrais's stuff, because I've got that novel is well on its way to being finished, and I've just never finished it because I'm such a tale writer. I'm such a short tales, and finishing that long form is such a pain in the butt. But I really believe in the story, so I'll be going back to that myself eventually. Nathaniel Loseball said, did you talk about Kong's journey in New Empire? Not specifically in New Empire, but I talked about his journey overall. I guess I could maybe do a video just on his journey in New Empire, because I do like that, him coming back to where he came from, seeking his origin, seeking his people. And it would have been very easy for him in New Empire to find his people and be like, I guess this is where I come from. I guess this is what I should do, and kind of fall in line or join with the Scar King or whatever, was that called? I think it was called Scar or Scar King or something. I don't know. it would have been easier for him to do that, but he said no. These are things that and you're projecting these thoughts into his head, but he emotes rather humanly a lot of times, so you do get this to be the story where he is the benevolent king, not the tyrant king, and he takes it to task. But yeah, it was great. It was a nice little journey there. AL, good to see you there. Said, I'm not a writer, I'm a math teacher, but I needed something to relieve the stress. Probably the worst 3 years of my life. Oh, you were talking about the Generator Rex. I heard about Generator Rex. Never really watched it myself, but I have heard of that. Let me get to the two reviews that I have for tonight before I lose steam and don't want to talk about them. Luckily, the headache's abated. That's gone, so that's good. Now, so actually, no. Shoot, there's one more. All right, let me do the Batman reviews, and then I'll go get the other review. I do have a review that's not just Batman related, but I've been doing my journey through Legends of the Dark Knight, and I'm up to 1992 now. And as stated, I pitched it last time before. I'm going into the 3-issue arc that Matt Wagner had, which is good. Matt Wagner's a great artist. He's written some wonderful things. This is, let me get them in order here. It starts with issue 28, and it's Faces. It's a Two-Face story. So, Legends of the Dark Knight, 28. This is 1992. It's got ads for Batman Returns is coming up. It's coming out in June. Batman Returns, which is Batman Returns is kind of a Christmas movie, so it's weird that it came out in June. But I guess summer blockbusters, that's just when those things came. But these covers are brilliant. It's a 3-issue arc. I'll say that it's the art is wonderful. The art is Matt Wagner's art, as you know it. The writing is not. It's not the best story you've ever read by Matt Wagner. Okay, it's not bad, but it's early Matt Wagner. It's not his best story. There are some moments here or there where if I was an editor, I'd have been like, you really want to go that route there? My biggest critique of it, story-wise, is that Batman gets captured twice on the same night by Two-Face's little gang there or whatever. Now, I get it. You can say, well, this is the why, because he didn't, when he was trying to pull his punches, because these people, he didn't know if they were enemies or not. Yeah. Batman would never allow himself to get captured twice in the same night. You can maybe pull it off once. I didn't like that. That just grated against me as a Batman fan. But Batman is purely iconic. He's the iconic Batman, real deal, in this story. Two-Face is great in this story, and it's a really interesting sort of lesson or kind of moral of the tale in a way. I don't want to give away too many of the details, but I'll just say this much. In this story, on this character arc, Two-Face he's gathering up. So people shows are circus, side shows in Europe. Apparently they were more prevalent in Europe at the time. I don't know if they're even really still go on hardly all anymore, but they used to be big business even in America, and there's places in Florida where they would all go sort of to live out the winter months and whatnot before they go back on the road with state fairs and carnivals and whatnot. But he gets this gang around him of all of these sideshow freaks, the bearded lady, the dog-faced boy, all the typical ones, the obese woman, the thin man, all those kind of ones. And he's trying to, because Two-Face himself is scarred on one side of his face, and he's trying to get them all together to sort of go to this island where they can all live and not be freaks or whatever. It's a weird take on Two-Face, because you tend to think of Two-Face stories more about fate, not him really thinking of himself as a freak. But it can work, and I think if this story was ever developed into like an animated film or whatever, you could really develop that well and really make it an interesting role. But in the 3-issue arc, the story, it's fascinating because by the end of it, and I know maybe this spoils a little bit, but there's still plenty to the story. There's still I do recommend you read it because it's a great 3-issue arc. Legend of the Dark Knight, Faces by Matt Wagner. But by the end of the story, you get a lot of the sideshow freaks that he's gathered together are saying, well, I actually don't feel all that put upon. I mean, I've got a family. I've made some good money in my day, you know, this and that. Well, hey, I'm actually not, you know, I actually don't want to go live on an island. I don't think I'm actually that victimized as you think we are, or something like that. That's the basic general consensus of a lot of these freaks, and it's an interesting little lesson, or truth that Two-Face experiences before Batman captures him, because a lot of times when we feel victimized in any way, you know, we feel we are treated unfairly by life or by others in some kind of way, it's just human nature to look for community. It's human nature to try to bond with others who have a similar experience. Sometimes, though, when we let our trauma define us, and that's what Batman's villains do, right? Batman did not let his trauma define him. He positively reacted against his trauma to help others not to have to face that trauma, right? That's Batman's story. But all of his supervillains, in one way or the other, they let their trauma define them. Whether it's Two-Face, oh, my face is scarred up now, nothing means nothing, everything's about fate. Whether it's, you know, the Joker, whatever story, whatever thing had happened to him back in the day, now he doesn't believe that, you know, he believes in anarchy and so forth, and no true values and whatnot. You know, so all of his villains being ostracized as a child, like, you know, Enigma or Cobblepot or whatever. So all of them let their trauma define them in some way. And when you let your trauma define you, you're never really going to find community, because you're not looking for real human connections. You're looking for validation. And that's what Two-Face is doing in this story. He's not looking for real human connections by other people who may have gone through something similar to him. Let's have a community. Let's help each other, or whatever, support group or whatever. No, he's not. And a lot of people, you see this on the internet so many times. How many people aren't really looking for community? They're looking for validation for how they're reacting to whatever they've been through, you know? And you can see that in a lot of ways. I mean, we see it I talk about it, maybe not directly in this angle, but I talk about it a lot when I talk about how many people are counterintuitively, you know, by going off this anti-woke thing and doing all the reviews and going to all their channels and doing all this kind of stuff, they're just kind of keeping woke alive because they're feeding it. But that kind of person isn't really about, hey, look at the way the culture's treating us for not jiving with its ideology. Look at the way the culture's ruining all of our mythologies and so forth. And, you know, there is a group of people, and there's such a thing as finding comfort in that common experience with other fans who feel the same way. You know, we all here have pretty much, you know, a lot of us here anyway, have that pretty much similar experience. But you can take it to the next level where you find your identity in that. And in a lot of channels, even, you look at them, they become the anti-woke channel. They're not a channel about putting forth good story. They're not doing reviews. They're not pointing you towards great stuff that you should really go be looking at. All they're doing is, you know, they hate this. Oh, they just said the worst thing ever. Oh, yeah, you know, it's a grift. And, you know, they're letting people, they're encouraging people, subconsciously or otherwise, to define themselves by what they're against, you know? And it's good to be against things. It's good to stand up and call out crap, you know, but you can't define yourself as against, because then you end up not standing for anything yourself, you know? Soundgraver are talking about this a lot with a lot of channels. You saw it in Comicsgate a lot. I'm not really familiar with the Iron Age much. I don't know if I've even watched a channel that actually calls itself Iron Age, but I'm sure the same thing goes on there. You know, one person, you know, like how many channels out there are just anti-Ethan Van Sciver channels? There's nothing else to them. They may try to like pitch their own stuff here and there or whatever, but like they've built their platform on being anti-Ethan Van Sciver. And it's like, okay, that's your identity then. That's kind of sad. That's kind of, you know, you don't have to like Ethan Van Sciver. Okay, maybe you got this or that against him, whatever. But, you know, so a lot of these channels just built their platform. Or maybe not just even EVS, just like being anti-Comicsgate or whatever, you know. And yeah, when you do that, you're not going to find community. You're looking for validation is what you're looking for. So this story was a great sort of illustration of that, you know, psychology behind the criminals, which is really great. It's kind of a good segue. Eventually I'm going to jump over and start looking at the shadow of the Bat run too. Now, the Legends of the Night run that was a new Batman title they created after the popularity of Batman 89. After the popularity of Batman Returns in 1992, they anticipated, okay, we're going to need another Batman title, a fourth one, and that was Shadow of the Bat. And Shadow of the Bat, whereas the Legends of the Dark Knight dwells a little bit more on the earlier years of Batman, Shadow of the Bat looks into more of the psychology of either his villains or either him or some of his allies or whatever. It's more of a psychological exploration, and some of the arcs were really interesting. So I'll be going through that a little bit too. The other review, though, the other Batman review before I finish up here, and I'll get one last review that's not a Batman related title, sort of. But I realized that I missed the annual. Any comic title has an annual thrown in there too, which isn't necessarily part of a run. It's just a sort of standalone. And the first annual that the Legends of the Dark Knight did was called Duel, and it was you had a few different writers, O'Neill, Aparo, really great artists, great writers. And I won't give everything away, but you've got, it's sort of a dream state. You know that from the beginning. Batman is trudging through this Arctic conditions, this snow. He's wounded and he's carrying this burden. He calls it his burden, and you just see it as this big green sack that he's carrying. And he goes to one of the monasteries, the sort of the martial arts monasteries that he had trained at, when he was becoming Batman. And they give him this tea to drink, and they say, this is the challenge you need to go through or whatever. And he's kind of going through these sort of hallucinations. You don't know if it's brought on by the tea or if, what is this, a dream or whatever. But there's something affecting reality. It's something that's, that somehow this is just some symbolic hallucinations or dream state or something. That's all you know. I won't give it away by the end. I won't give away what you find out in the end. But he goes through these different scenarios, and like one is like going through sort of hell and sort of like a Dante-esque, hellscape, facing these different challenges, fighting this demon, that demon. He goes to different points in history, facing this criminal or that criminal, and a lot of the characters that he faces sort of stand in for things that he might want. Like he sees Talia al Ghul at one point, and she's offering him, pleasures to stay and the comfort and whatnot. And it's sort of the temptation for him to have a lover, to actually give in to the Al Ghuls and to have Talia as his wife, because he did have a love affair with Talia, even at this point. So it's interesting, and he's carrying along this burden, and see, the burden is the thing that makes him say no to all of these different challenges, all of these different comforts. He has to say no because he can't release that burden. He's got to carry that burden. And I won't tell you what the burden is, but by the end, when you find out what the burden is, and you get to the end of the story, it is like, yes, that is Batman. That is Batman. It's so good. I almost just want to tell you and just read the couple of the lines on the last page so badly, but I won't do it because I want you to look this up. You can find it in their comic shops or whatever. It's the Legends of the Dark Knight Annual, 1991. Duel is the name of the story, and it's so good. It is 100% iconic Batman. It's brilliant. It's a great title. So that's my review of that. Just encouraging you to check this out. And you can get these in your comic shops. I went long box diving the other day and found a ton of these, in addition to the ones I already had. They're great stuff. All right, let me see if I've got any super chats that I missed here, and then I'll go get that last. The Claus reminder. Sorry for being a bother. No, you're not. You reminding me makes me remember. Like I said, I had it on my mind this week, so probably watch it this week. But yeah, it better be freaking amazing, Nathaniel Zalozball. If I watched that and I'm like, this is that crap you couldn't shut up about. Studio Super said the Joker got dumped in a vat of acid, got his skin bleached white, and therefore decided to become a nihilistic embodiment of chaos. Then he could have gotten easy work as a rodeo clown. Yeah, all of the villains, in some which way or another, allow their trauma to define them, and that's the route that they take, which is a nice dark mirror of what Batman take in terms of positive activism. So yeah, agreed. All right, give me once. I'm just going to turn off the camera and I'm just going to walk into the other room to grab this title because it's good. It's worth it. And then we'll end up after that. Okay, so for the holiday season, if you are a long time listener to my channel, I actually talked about this way back in the day. DC Comics, for a time there, they did this series called DC Showcase. And they did a whole series of them. I got a bunch of them. It was Dan DiDio trying to like break out of the comic book stores and get DC Comics in the hands of people in like Walmart, basically. So that's where they were sold. They were sold in Walmart. The idea is a good one. Let's kind of do like the Archie Digest kind of thing where we put together a collection of some of our greatest stories, sell them in like sort of in a grocery store. You know, they went to Walmart, but the same idea. But it never really caught on because Walmart stocked them over like next to the Magic the Gathering cards, like in this special little collector's area that only people who were already into comics would go to and look at. If they'd have placed these like in the aisles of the checkout lanes, they might have gotten a lot more kids interested in it. The other problem with the DC Showcase titles is that, I'll show you one. Let's see. Here's some Superman ones. Got a bunch. Like here's an example. DC Showcase Superman. And they each one would have one news story, kind of like the Archie Digest do, the Archie Double Digest do and whatnot. But then they have snippets of other classic stories, and you'd have to come back each month and buy the next one. So this one's number 6 in the Superman Showcase they did. So to get the complete stories, if you didn't have the complete stories in the original comic somewhere, or you wanted the new story that they were printing, you'd have to go back and buy these. So a decent idea. One thing I didn't like about it, though, is they would smash together, like sometimes you get like really crappy New 52 Superman stories in with some of the classic Superman stories, which is just like, no, that's garbage. I'm not interested in that old crap, you know? So they didn't always really combine the best of. But you did get some really great stuff. You did get some new stories that were written really cool and really well. The one I'm talking about that I'm going to recommend tonight is the DC Showcase World's Greatest Superheroes Holiday Special. And not all of the stories in this are great. There's one story that's kind of there's 2 stories that I'm just not interested in at all. But the other stories are so freaking good. If you don't have these in the classic runs that they came in, you really owe it to yourself to pick this up. They're wonderful. It starts out with a news story from The Flash by Scott Lobdell, which isn't bad. It's kind of like, okay, but you get the feeling like you've read that story somewhere before. It's sort of ish based on like the Christmas episode of the JLA. But it's a decent Christmas story, you know, whatever. It's fine. The next story, though, is one of the greatest Superman stories that's ever been written. It's Metropolis Mailbag from the classic Dan Jurgens run. This was the continuity when Superman and Lois were engaged. And or Clark Kent and Lois were engaged. And it's a Christmas issue. And this is a complete one because this one's a DC Showcase, so all of these are standalone stories. They're not ones that you have to go and collect. But Metropolis Mailbag, you can either try and find a used copy of this or just go back and find the original issues of. I can't remember if this was in Superman comics or Action Comics back in the 90s, but you can find the Metropolis Mailbag story. And the idea behind the story is that Superman every year at Christmas he tries to answer letters that people from all over from the world would write to him asking for help. And it's kind of a pain. He doesn't like doing it at first because a lot of people would just write to him with like, hey, I've got a get rich quick scheme. If you could help me locate some oil, we could both benefit and profit from this, you know? And it's like, I'm Superman. I don't do that kind of stuff, you know? And like college students asking him, you know, if you crushed a lump of coal, you could get some diamonds. Make sure you send me some, you know? And he's like, that's not what I'm here for. But then the other reason why it hurts him to answer these letters sometimes is because sometimes it's stuff that he can't always help with. The first lady that he meets is a Auschwitz survivor, and she's just recently learned that her sister is alive in the German nursing home or whatever, but she's too old and low income and she can't get there, and he helps her get there to reunite with her sister, you know, and he's talking to Lois. He's like, these are the things, this is why I do this. These are the reasons why. No, I probably can't help a lot of these people. A lot of these letters are probably, you know, insincere or asking for the wrong things. But if I can just help one person like that, it's worth it. It's such true blue Superman. It's really great. I won't ruin the whole story for you, but I'll just give you the setup for the real big deal. A young boy writes to him and asks him, can you take away my daddy's cancer? All right. So his dad has a tumor in his brain. And he's like, you can do anything. You're Superman. So I just want to see if you can do it. And he's looking at Lois. He's like, this is so hard. He's like, I can't do that. You know, he's Superman. He's not a doctor. He's not a healer. So he decides to go and talk to the boy anyway to try to explain to the boy that he doesn't want the boy to feel like he's just been abandoned, you know, and everything. And I'm going to give the whole story. So I'm going to give a little bit more of the story. By the time Superman gets there, the boy's father had already passed. So the boy's angry, but Superman talks to his mother and talks to the boy even. And there's a really amazing ending where Superman brings a lot of peace to this family. He helps some other people that really need it by bringing peace to this family. Amazing story. If you talk to like longtime Superman readers, they know this story. It's a classic Superman Christmas story. It's just one of the greatest ones. Metropolis Mailbag. It's so inspirational. It's so absolutely, that's the character. That's our iconic Superman, you know, beautifully, represented art, you know, and everything. The pages for these DC showcases were great. The page quality felt like sort of old newsprint almost. So it's a really heartwarming Christmas story. Really great. There's a Supergirl story, which kind of piggybacks up from the idea of that, which is pretty good. Not nowhere near as good as the Superman one, you know, but it's not bad. There's a Batman story in here that came from the DC Batman Rebirth era, in which it's a story of how Batman first got Ace the Bat-Hound. And it's a really great story. Alfred, you know, takes this problem dog, you know, with this horrible, tragic, you know, treatment in the past, and is taming him and everything and allowing him to be a pet for Bruce. It's really great story. That's another good one. There's a Batwoman story that you can just skip. I don't know. I'm just not a Batwoman fan. Unless it's in a story where she's sort of aiding Batman in some way. Like the Detective Comics Rebirth. I really like those because Batman was asking her to sort of head the team of a lot of his allies, you know, spoiler, Robin and so forth. Clayface was even trying to be a hero at that point, so that was really interesting stuff. But in general, I'm just not a Kate Kane fan on her own as a hero. There's a Harley Quinn story, which I loathe this era of Harley Quinn. The red and black hair and the like, OMG, I'm totes so random as a hero. Like, I hate that Harley Quinn. Hate it. So I'm not really interested in that. But then the final story is a really great one. This also came from the DC Rebirth era with the two new Green Lanterns that they had. Baz and Jessica, was it Valdez or Vesquez? I forget her. She's Hispanic descent. And she's inviting Baz over for a celebration of the Epiphany. They're going to make a king's cake, and you know it's a Catholic celebration because she's Hispanic. And it's a story. If you know the holiday of the Epiphany, it's the idea of when the three wise men came to baby Jesus. And this story is about these three aliens, these three sort of wise men aliens seeking out Jessica and Baz to for these challenges, you know. So it's a really interesting sort of smartly done take on the Feast of the Epiphany, and really great. It's a wonderful story. It's a solid way to sort of end a holiday issue because it takes place on the Epiphany. So, like I said, most of the stories in here are absolutely worth reading. Few of them, maybe you'll like one of the ones I didn't, you know, whatever. You can give it a chance to see what you think. But really good stuff. So I recommend this too if you can get your hands on a used copy of the DC Holiday Special Showcase, or you can just go back to the original runs that these stories were printed in, and you should be able to find it if you look up DC Showcase Holiday Special. You'll find a list of all the stories that are in there, and you'll be able to find which issues they were in. Pick them out of your long box. It's really great. It's good stuff. Got a super chat while I was talking there. Gentle Savage said, Prof, have you ever watched Arthur Christmas? Also, have you ever watched Prep and Landing? Prep and Landing reimagines Santa's elves as top secret spies. No, I haven't watched either of those. Vaguely, the name Arthur Christmas sounds familiar. Maybe if I saw an image of it, I'd know what that was. I do remember what Prep and Landing was. I do know the gist of it. Still haven't seen it. I don't know why. It's kind of like Klaus. Just never presented itself to me. But if you think they're good, I don't mind checking them out sometime. I don't know if I'll get to all of those this Christmas season because I got my own staples that I want to watch too. I'm definitely going to check out Klaus because it's been so many years. People have been recommending that to me. So yeah, got the recommendations through. I'm gonna wrap things up here, but I just want to check in with a few more comments. Samuel Proctor says, I have a 70s Batman Christmas book, Batman 239. Batman helps a criminal dressed as Santa turn a new leaf. In a mysterious one-horse sleigh is involved. I've read that story. It's a really great one. Excuse me. Yeah, there's some great... The 70s are wonderful. You know, I'm doing the 90s with the Batman stuff. I think I'm going to dial it back to the 80s with Superman and start going through the John Byrne era. But yeah, I'd love to dial it back to the pre-crisis 70s days too, because they're wonderful. They've got some wonderful stuff. All right. I will say this before I go. Oh, Michael Scombati, good to see you there. Say, do I prefer Neil Adam, Marshall Rogers, Batman, Yellow Oval, or Jim Lee Hush design? Definitely the Yellow Oval. Yeah, I want the Yellow Oval all the way. That doesn't mean I hate the design with no Yellow Oval and just the blue and the black, or the gray and the black. Okay, that works too, whatever. I don't hate it, but if you ask me what's the best, Yellow Oval, gotta have it. And gray and blue suit is the best suit. I don't hate gray and black. Gray and black's fine, but gray and blue, that's just the way to go, I think. If you really want to make me interested in a Batman movie, really want to get me into the mindset of I'm going to give it a chance, show me a gray and blue suit. I'll be there. Let me just mention before I forget, though, that Sound Engraver is doing her stream tomorrow. She didn't last week because we had to go to that play that our student had, but she's got a topic she is raring to go on. She's been telling me about it. She is very passionate about this topic, so you can go check out her channel. She's got it'll be a good one. It has to do with AI art. So good stuff. She's got some good ideas about it. AI rant, as she said. Yeah. So check out her stream tomorrow night. Yeah, Studio 96 recommend. Yeah, I have the movie. I haven't watched it yet, but I have the film. And do I have the comics? I don't know if I have the comics, but the movie is in my pile there. I just need to watch it. So, but yeah, hope you guys have a great rest of the season. Hope you guys have a great continued Advent season. Of course, if you're Catholic or a liturgical denomination, it's Gaudete Sunday, which is the week of Advent where we celebrate the joy and the rejoicing of Christ's nearness. But 2 weeks left, and then Christmas. So man, it's coming. I'll be back. Like I said, I'll cut out some of these things as videos this week. I'll also do a video of my journey to go see Al on Monday. And then, of course, I'll come back next Saturday with some more reviews and things to chat about. Maybe we'll get through next Saturday without any technical glitches. We'll see. But we'll see. One of these days it'll work. But thanks for hanging out and bearing with me despite all of that. I don't know why the camera got so grainy, but it's cool. We look retro, right? Looks like I'm on a CRT television talking to you. So, yeah. You guys have a good one, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.